Not really, but I mean, but you can send it to me. You got my email, right? Okay, send it to me. I'll take care of it.
Meeting, and I'm going to ask that the Commissioner Way will lead us in invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance. I will give myself. Commissioner Way.
Most gracious Heavenly Father, we come to you this evening to ask for your many graces. Lord, we ask that you be with us, help us, and guide us as we discuss matters relating to our community, Lord. We ask you to be with those that are in the community that need your uplifting hand. If you will be with us, watch over us, and guide us. It's in your most holy name we pray. Amen.
Can we all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Madam City Clerk, may we have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Gleason.
Here.
Commissioner Moss.
Here.
Commissioner Kaczynski.
Here.
Commissioner Way. Present. Mayor Pro Tem Wilkins.
Present.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, looking for the approval of the agenda. Any changes to the agenda?
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, if you could add the appointment to the Seguasa Board.
I'm going to make that 6A and push everything down.
6A?
6A and push everything down, yes.
What are we doing with 6A?
Seguasa.
Seguasa Board.
Any other changes?
So 6A is now, everything else is just going to move down?
Yes, ma'am.
Or we're going to change everything on the agenda?
Yes, we are. Yes, we are.
Not that we'll do it, but that's okay.
Any other adjustments? All right, hearing none, I entertain a motion to approve the agenda with changes.
So moved.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. Entertain a motion on the consent agenda.
The consent agenda first?
I said I entertain it. Yes, that's okay.
I wanted to apologize to the board for putting this back on, but there was something in the minutes that I wasn't clear on, and I apologize to the board that I had to bring it back.
Not a problem. And I'm going to add 5B, some comments by the city manager. That'll be 5B.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, what is that item? I didn't catch it.
Which one?
We didn't vote on the consent agenda.
We're not finished yet.
Okay.
I've added 5B, manager's comments. Any questions, sir?
I'm good.
All right, consent agenda. Let me vote on it. All those in favor of the adjustments, say aye.
Aye.
Mr. City Manager.
5B?
Manager's comments. City Manager's comments.
Mayor Pro Tem and Commissioners, following my recent emergency surgery and with what feels like a second lease on life, I feel compelled this evening to acknowledge and express my sincere appreciation first and foremost to my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, to the medical professionals at Duke University, to friends and family for their unwavering support and for the ability to be able to return to serve the citizens of Creedmoor. I also thank everyone for your prayers, thoughts, visits, cards, calls, and flowers. And I'd like to thank the Chief for a job well done as the interim city manager in my absence and the amazing staff that we have in the city of Creedmoor. Chief Wheelis had reassured me during one of his visits to check in on me that if I didn't return to work on my own, that he was going to come get me. So I'm back, Chief. You're relieved. Anyway, I'd like to just thank everybody for that. That's all I had, sir.
Thank you. In addition, I have a proclamation I want to read. Chief Willis, would you come up, please? I want to read this proclamation. Honoring Chief Troy Willis for his service to the city of Creedmoor as interim city manager. Whereas Chief Troy Willis has provided outstanding leadership to his staff, exemplary service to the citizens of the city of Creedmoor as police chief for over 3 years. And whereas on January 12, 2026, the city manager appointed Chief Willis to serve as interim city manager during his emergency absence. And whereas Chief Willis has effectively served as acting city manager on multiple occasions in the absence of the city manager, whereas Chief Willis demonstrated creativity and professionalism of facilitating the Board of Commissioners FY 2027 Strategic Plan Retreat on February 7th, 2026. And whereas Chief Willis was actively involved in the early planning stages of the FY 2027 budget process during the city manager's absence. And whereas Chief Willis played a significant role in the planning, review, and design of the new Creedmoor Police Department building from 2023 to 2026. And whereas Chief Willis oversaw and participated in the 2025-2026 accreditation process for Creedmoor Police Department by North Carolina Law Enforcement Accreditation Agency. Now therefore, I, Mayor Pro Tem Wilkins, along with the members of the Board of Commissioners of the City of Creedmoor, recognize and sincerely thank Chief Willis for his dedication to the City of Creedmoor and for his exemplary service during the city manager's absence. To witness thereof, I hereto set my hand across the city of Creedmoor, North Carolina, to be a faithful this 17th day of March, 2026. Thank you, Chief. All right, moving on to discussion items. 6A, Sequoia Commissioner Way.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem,
Sir.
I'm going to stand up because I wanted to let you know, when I was going to step down, you and I had a gentleman's agreement. I shook your hand
Sir.
that you would fill in the remainder of my spot
Yes, sir.
based on me stepping away.
Yes, sir.
A gentleman's agreement, sometimes that's all you have is your word. So I'm here to honor my word for this appointment tonight.
Thank you, sir.
I would like for you to also be known that there are several members that would like to also be on this board. So it is a prestigious honor to be assigned to represent the citizens of Creedmoor to the Sequoia Board. And we will hold you, me, or anyone else on that board accountable to represent our citizens. Thank you.
Is that a motion to appoint me, sir?
Yes.
No, I'd like to make a motion to appoint Ed Gleason. Ed Gleason has more experience with Seguasa than the executive director himself. He's attended more meetings than anybody on the Seguasa board at all. He's been to every meeting except when he was sick. In the 6 years that I have served as vice chair, I have learned that being on the Seguasa board is not just about sitting in a chair and collecting a check. There is a lot to learn, a lot to learn. And Commissioner Way, you've done a great job, and I was proud to serve with you. But I feel that with Seguasa being at the crossroads we are with the projects that we have ahead of us, and with the new PFAS dictate that came out over the weekend, we have got a lot more stuff to do. I believe that Ed Gleason can step into this role and serve it with as much knowledge as possibly could. And like I said, I've seen him at every single meeting except when he was ill. So my nomination is for Ed Gleason to serve on the Seguasa board.
We'll deal with the substitute motion first.
Mr. Mayor.
Commissioner Moss.
Yes, sir.
Is there any further discussion?
Yes, sir. I was just going to ask, we actually have a motion on the floor?
We do.
So is that how you're planning to proceed?
I'll go with the substitute motion first. Is that correct, Kevin?
Oops, sorry. Not sure why that's doing that. Okay.
Well, we have to have questions on the motion.
Turn the toys off. Sorry? Can we turn the toys off?
Good.
If we have a motion on the floor, that motion should be addressed first.
The original motion.
That's correct.
Yes, sir. So the motion to appoint Archie Wilkins to Seguasa. Any further discussion?
What about Ed Gleason?
That, just to deal with that first. Kev?
If you have two nominations for a position, you have to vote twice?
Well, I think Commissioner Way's motion was to appoint Commissioner Wilkins to the vacated seat. I don't, had the board proceeded by accepting nominations, I think that would be the appropriate
Right.
process that we would have done.
What a scam. What a scam.
Any further discussion?
Yeah.
Commissioner Gleason?
Again, I didn't get on this board to win friends or influence people. And that's the fact. And the bottom line is, I've been to 10 times more meetings than Archie, and Archie served on the board for 4 years. And did nothing. And did nothing. And then when he brought up this water issue in September of last year to influence an election in this city about water quality, I said to him, why didn't you do anything when you were on the board? He said, you can change your mind. What kind of sense does that make? You mean you weren't for clean water and you changed your mind now that you are for clean water? No, no. The bottom line is, we're not going to replace somebody who literally threw off two people from the Seguasa board who wanted to give Seguasa millions of dollars to help the products. They threw them off the board and appointed Archie and another commissioner to be on the board. So the fact is, this city going to be represented by Archie again? Again, I have no choice in the matter, but the bottom line is that's pretty sad for this city.
You're certainly welcome to your
Thank
opinion.
you.
Any further comments? Any more comments? On the motion to appoint the Mayor Pro Tem on the Seguasa Board, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Commissioner White? I didn't hear you.
Two to three.
We need to have an opposed vote.
Making a motion isn't a vote.
We have to have a vote for opposition.
Abstaining.
That's a yes vote. That's a yes vote. That's correct. The motion passes 3-2. Madam City Clerk, you'll let Seguasa know. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Sir.
I'm not gonna press my button because it's doing a weird thing,
Okay.
making a crazy
No
noise.
problem.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that the Creedmoor Board of Commissioners formally recognize and express its sincere appreciation to Commissioner Robert Way for his dedicated service on the South Grandma Water and Sewer Authority Board of Directors. During his tenure on Seguasa, Commissioner Way has demonstrated commitment, professionalism, and leadership in serving the residents of Creedmoor and all of the communities in the Seguasa service area. Commissioner Way's contributions will have a lasting impact on our community. That is my motion, Mr. Mayor.
You've heard the motion. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. I caught that. Is that 4-1? I didn't hear Commissioner Kuczynski.
Aye.
5-0. All right, moving right along. 6B, Police Chief Job Reclassification, Mr. City Manager.
Mayor Pro Tem and Commissioners, before the board this evening is a request to approve a reclassification of the Chief of Police's position from Police Chief to Assistant City Manager, Police Chief. Over the last 3 years, Chief Willis has been designated by the manager on numerous occasions to serve as acting city manager in the absence of the manager. Chief Willis has also served with distinction, as you heard in the proclamation a few minutes ago, as interim city manager. Finance Director Lee Faines has confirmed that no additional funding will be required through June 30, 2026 due to lapsed salaries and vacancies in the police department. So, supporting documentation is included in your package as well as an updated organizational chart. I'll be happy to answer any questions the board might have.
Any questions?
Make a motion, we approve.
Any discussion?
So we are going to, for this promotion, we are going to, on the organizational chart, under city manager, we have assistant city manager / police chief. I think that police chief is his primary position, assistant city manager is his alternate position. I'd like to have that box reversed so that it reads that way. Or is there another reason you did it that way?
No, and I agree with you. We should have listed it backwards because the majority of his responsibility will be as chief.
And he will stay at the same rate of salary that he's been at while you were gone?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, those are my questions. Thank you.
Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Moving right along.
Thank you, Board.
6C, public hearing on Green Street. We're gonna open up the public hearing. Mr. Francos.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, members of the board. The item 6B tonight is based upon a request for a closure and right-of-way abandonment for Green Street. Green Street is a road that probably nobody here is familiar with because it is not a segment that is on our POW bill. I'm more or less familiar with it because he knows where it is. Green Street is a segment that is not on our POW bill street index. We do not claim any maintenance funding, so no funding would be lost. Green Street is unused right-of-way that exists back from the original layout and format of Creedmoor. The right-of-way currently is occupied by two private driveways that serve the two adjoining residences. There are no public utilities that exist within the right-of-way. There are no public easements that exist within the right-of-way. It is simply a keeper street, just a term that's used for a road that's never been improved. Back on February 3rd, the board adopted Resolution 2026 R03, which brought us to the point we are now after we have published 4 consecutive public hearing advertisements in the Ledger News. We have sent 3 certified letters to all adjoining property owners, and we have posted 2 signs on the right-of-way for the last 4 weeks. So all of the obligation for notice have been met at this time, and the decision on closing and abandonment would be, of course, up to the board. If you do choose to go forward, there is a resolution included in your packet, R06, which goes about stating those intentions. And then later, if the adjoining property owners do want to claim the abandoned right-of-way, they must file a recombination plat and adjust their deeds to reflect the additional land. It's not something the city would do.
Gotcha.
I'll stop there if there are any questions for me, but you appropriately open the public hearing. We want to go through and collect comment.
I will.
Close public hearing, and then board can act as they see fit.
All right, I have one person down to speak. Mr. Dylan St. John, you want to come forward? If you please, for the record, give your name and your address, please.
Good evening. My name is Dylan St. Jean, or St. John. And I live at 513 Lake Road, which is one of the bordering properties of Green Street. So, I'm a police officer. I investigate child crimes, so I'm only really good at testifying in court, so I wrote down what I wanted to say, so I apologize if I just read off of what I've got written down here. So, my name is Dylan St. Jean, which I've already told, and I live at 513 Lake Road with my wife, Monica, and our son, Rowan, who we're trying to keep him quiet, and our very, very soon-to-be second child as well. So 3 years ago, Monica and I, we moved here from Burlington. We were looking for a quiet town and a place with room for our family to grow, and we had found Merle Edwards' old house. And it just seemed perfect. Monica often jokes that we will die in this house, and being a smart man, I do not argue that, so I will die in that house. From the very beginning, I set out to restore the home and the land. We removed all the old carpets, refinished all the original hardwoods in the house, cleared all the vines, a lot of vines, and a ton of invasive poison ivy on the property. took down dead trees, all to bring back the natural beauty of the property. And we've taken the same care with Green Street. So at first, our neighbor Will, when we moved in, Will Capper, whose family had lived in that house for a long time, I always saw him mow that half the grass of Green Street. So we did the exact same, fertilized it, seeded it, picked up any trash that may have come off of the intersection at Stem Road. And so we've been maintaining the area as if it were our own, because essentially when you look at it, it looks like an extension of our property. We want it to look just like the rest of our property as well. And we've done even more. We've planted fruit trees. I've started a beehive to support the whole local ecosystem around there, just to help the trees and the plants and everything like that. And so now Craig, the current owner of 601 Lake Road, who took the house after Will had sold it, unfortunately he can't be here tonight. He is a firefighter and he was on shift and he couldn't get out of it. But his family's here in his stead. And he shares the exact same commitment. I mean, he takes care of the grass and the lawn just like it's his own. We don't do anything with it, don't litter, and just treat it like it's our property. That being said, because I heard the concerns from last month's meeting, we have no interest in changing it. We don't want to build anything on it. We don't want to park cars there. We don't want to use it as a driveway. Our driveway's already there, and our driveways are long. We both have carports for all of our cars. So we just want it to remain the natural, peaceful, pretty-looking street that it's always been since, we could find pictures on satellite images. Lastly, I just wanted to address, there were some concerns about the future possibility of the unopened street and the land beyond it. So talking with neighbors that we have come to know since moving in, and they know or still know the Aiken family that own that 50-some-odd private acres behind us. It's clear to us they have no plans to develop it or sell it anytime soon. The family owns it. The kids live somewhere else now, and instead they allow all the bordering residents to use all that private property for exactly what it is. It's just wooded trails. Rowan runs around on it. We run the dogs back there. I think Will used to mention that he used to ride his four-wheeler or a quad back there because his family lets us all use that land for their own generosity. So in the petition I had included, I probably went a bit overboard on my petition, but I included the satellite images of that whole plot of private land and circled a handful of possible access points, and I drove to each one myself to make sure you can actually access the land, and people do access the land through those other access points. And that's just to make my point that, I wanted to ensure that I know the future is uncertain, but whatever the future may hold, that we're not blocking off any reasonable access to all that land back there. So just lastly, our family, along with our neighbors, we just want to continue caring for the land as the natural space in the community. And approving the petition would just essentially ensure that Green Street stays the way it looks, because we're the ones that currently try to maintain it that way, and we would love to keep it that way. And that's it.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you. Having no one else, this board will close the public hearing. Mr. Francos, would you come back up? So we have a motion to adopt resolution 2026-R-06.
Make the motion. Isn't that the resolution we approved already?
L3 is approved, L6 would be tonight's action.
Right.
L6 or 06?
06.
Okay, yeah, I'll make the motion.
It's been moved. Mr. Kaczynski, to adopt resolution 2026-R-06. Any discussion?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Moss.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. Yeah, I had been probably the person you're speaking about that had expressed some concern about access to the other properties. I appreciate that, and like you, I too reached out to the Aiken family and got the same message that you did, so I'll be supporting the motion.
Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Hold on 1 second.
I'm sorry, I did not hear you. Don't worry about it. Motion is approved.
His button may be doing what my button is doing.
Okay, Ed, you guys let me know, because the button may be acting up, I'm sorry. This is my button.
Try yours.
Your button is over on the right.
I'm saying mine is
lighting up.
getting.
Nothing's lighting up then, so. Okay, moving on. Lake Rogers Dam Condition Assessment and Crack Repair. Mr. Markley.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, members of the board. Carl Bartlett, your city engineer, and I have a presentation tonight on the Lake Rogers Dam as we continue working toward compliance with the State Dam Safety Office. And the purpose of tonight's
We should be able to.
so we can just start the PowerPoint.
It's warm in here.
Oh, yeah.
So, the purpose of tonight's presentation is to present to the board the next steps that are proposed by RK&K and Schnabel Engineering for the dam evaluation and repair. And then at the end of that, I'll give a brief update to the board regarding the Main Street public parking lot and the grant expenditures to date. So just a little background on the dam. The first phase is complete. And during the first phase, Schnabel went out there and they visually inspected the surface of the dam structure and the surrounding area. Everybody knows the concrete portion of the dam. There's also a large portion that is earthen and has a large rock riprap. They utilized sounding equipment on the concrete to identify any voids or delamination or any strange sounds underneath. They utilized ground penetrating radar to identify anomalies below the surface of the concrete. And then they extracted 2 concrete cores to visually evaluate the condition of the concrete below the surface. You might remember the pictures from several months ago that showed several people scurrying around on the dam, drawing lines and graphs and charts on there, and then pushing equipment across it. That was the folks from Schnabel doing the field investigation. After the field work is done, they go back to the office and they analyze all the data that they gathered, and with that they came up with a Phase 2 proposal. The entire proposal is in your agenda material. And the next steps that they're identified there and as tasks 2 through 5 in that proposal. So I'll go through the specific steps that they are recommending. Task number 2 is a spillway crack joint repair design. Now, task 2 was included in the first phase, but it was only based on the cracks and the defects that were identified in the inspection letters from NCDEQ. Not surprisingly, additional defects were identified during the Phase 1 evaluation. So that leads to a more comprehensive design for repair and an additional cost of $25,792. One of the most, significant things that they found during Phase 1 was very large voids on the auxiliary spillway. One place they took a core, they tried to see what was underneath it, and it was just several feet of water underneath. Whatever material was there was gone. Task 3 of their proposal was an evaluation to lower the dam hazard classification from its current level of high, medium, and low classification. And I'll be honest, I didn't know what this really meant, what the point was, why would they propose this. So we had a call with them, a very in-depth discussion with our prime consultant, RK&K, and their sub-consultant, Schnabel. We want to make sure that we understood exactly what is the benefit to Creedmoor, how would we benefit from changing the hazard classification. It was a very informative discussion, and I left with a much better understanding of why they included it in the proposal, and I agree with the recommendation. Lowering the hazard classification, it has numerous benefits and the potential to save significant money in the future. And I'm confident it will save significant money. However, can't predict how much or when. That's impossible, but it will be there one day. And the reason I say that, well, first I say that the dam hazard classification is determined by the state Division of Department of Environmental Quality and Dam Safety Section. They determine the hazard classification. Schnabel's folks have gone through this before with other dams and have changed it based on, a changing environment. So it may have been appropriate to be high at one time, but not anymore. So the dam hazard classification, it has many impacts. The higher the classification, the more state oversight there is. More regulations apply, more inspections. The emergency action plan that we're having to produce right now, that's not required if it gets lowered to medium. Currently, we're at high. State approval of repairs is not required. At this point, any repair work you do has to be approved by the state. It also affects the design criteria. When the dam engineers, and I say that in a nice way, when they're designing a dam, there's certain things that they have to use. So the rainfall modeling, if it's a high hazard dam, the numbers that they have to use for the rainfall modeling are more stringent. The design year storm, is that 100-year storm, 50-year storm, all those things are much more stringent for a high hazard dam. What that means is if you have a lower hazard classification for the dam, you have a smaller spillway, just more options and more flexibility with the design. Now all those things apply to new dams, which we are definitely not talking about tonight. But they also apply to major rehabilitation work, which we're not talking about yet. Going back to the previous slide, I can't predict when, but when it becomes a major rehabilitation job that we're talking about, that's when we'll see significant savings. But again, I can't predict. So as I was sitting there listening to Schnabel give the presentation and explain and answer our questions, I sort of went through a hypothetical situation in my head to help understand exactly how this might play out. The very first time we met with them, they said, give us your professional guesstimate, what would it take to replace that dam? They said $6 million. They have a lot of experience recently after Hurricane Helene. They look at it and, guesstimate pretty close to what it's going to be. The rest of it are Carl's hypothetical numbers, so please acknowledge that, hypothetical. Let's say lower classification reduces the cost of major rehab work by 10%. That's pretty modest reduction. I would hope it was more, but I picked a small number. There's no specific definition for major, so I just picked 15% of replacement costs. Let's say this major rehabilitation project going to be 15% of the replacement cost. It'd be a $900,000 project. So if we reduce that $900,000 by 10%, comes up to $90,000 in savings by lowering the classification. Now, if that scenario becomes reality 5 years from now, I think we'll all consider the $28,086 for task 3 to be money well spent. I can't say this could happen. It might be a lot more money. It might be a lot more years from now. But the takeaway is when you're dealing with a multi-million-dollar asset like that, a small percent in savings is going to be big dollars. So, task number 4, I think they charge us for the big word here. Petrographic examination of concrete. Basically, those cores that they took and they looked at, they take them to the laboratory now and they analyze them. They analyze them for the structural condition, any chemical changes, abnormalities. They run them through a series of tests, and they use those tests to determine if the concrete is suitable to remain in place so we can proceed with our repair work, or if it's a sign that replacement is on the horizon and there's no point throwing good money after bad. So it's critical information to know what is the condition of that concrete before we take any next step. Task number 4 is $8,530. Now, they also included task 5, which is a site survey of the whole area, and it's primarily for future work. We pressed them several times. Is this necessary to do the repair work to get into compliance with the state dam safety office? They said no. Okay, we'll define that. We don't need that now, then, we'll do it later. So that was taken off the shelf. So task number 2 is the repair design. Task number 3 is the hazard classification reduction. And just a note on that, that $28,000 is a not to exceed amount. As they start working on lowering the classification, if they come to a fatal flaw, they know it's not going to happen, they stop right there. Maybe they spent $5,000, maybe $10,000, but they're not going to keep spending the whole amount if they determine early on it's not going to happen. So that's a not to exceed. And then task 4, again, the concrete core analysis. So that comes up to $62,408. To put that in perspective, that's 1% of the guesstimated cost to replace the dam. And as a reminder, the cost of repair, the actual job to fix it, is going to be in addition to all of this. So the whole point of this Phase 2 proposal, the $62,000, is to make, should I say damn sure, is to make sure that the money spent on the dam repair is spent in the best way possible, that we're getting the most benefit out of it, that we're not spending it in the wrong direction, that we're doing the right thing, because that's going to be a larger amount than this work right here, this analysis and design cost. Now, the budget amendment will be available April 7th, so that's when the board can decide whether to proceed or not. But at this point, do you have any questions for me regarding this proposal?
Any questions? Mr. Way?
So, Carl, I appreciate all the time you put into this. I have heard about this, Mike, we can say it, the dam, all these years. Over 5 years, talked about how critical it was to get this dam repaired. They did not find we've not found anything that is critical or imminent at this point.
The voids underneath, I mean, that's a concern. I think it's fixable in a relatively straightforward manner. I mean, it's not like it's crumbling or falling apart, but if that's not filled, then it's going to continue to erode, and then there will be problems.
Well, I think this Phase 2 proposal is much more reasonable than the $500,000 we were hit with many, many years ago with a different city manager. So thank you. I thank you.
Commissioner Way?
Actually, for Lee, for the budget amendment on April the 7th, where will we be pulling these funds from? What account?
This will come from the general fund audit.
General fund audit. Thank you.
Any other questions or discussion?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Moss?
Thank you, sir. Carl, in going through your document, was there any comments made about this dam being built in 1939 and the condition that we find ourselves in 2026, good or bad?
I mean, they know when it was built. They said some dams that are much newer have much worse issues, and it's really sort of, I guess, hard to predict. It has to do with a lot of the material that was sourced, the kind of rock that was put in there, the sand that was put in there, and there's some variation where it can cause different kinds of reactions or chemical things that take place that cause problems from the inside out. So, I mean, I think we're doing quite well that it's stood up that long, and I would like to think that nothing's going to suddenly fly apart after, 90 years, but you never know.
Great. That is the answer that I was hoping that you would give. I think a positive thing is, the citizens of Creedmoor have gotten a great return on their investment over the years, and I think these numbers kind of reflect the investment that we need to make to keep that going. So I agree 100%.
Anyone else? I entertain a motion.
So moved.
So the motion is to approve Phase 2 proposal for R.K.R. Schwabel in the amount of $62,408. Any further discussion on that?
Sir, I did have just one other question.
Commissioner Moss?
When they do this work, will they have to drop the level of the lake?
I think they request like a foot below the spillway, just to make sure that it's dry on the downstream side. When they do the actual repair work, I'm not sure. It all depends on what the final things that they come up with.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
They know that we use it for recreation, and, it's be taken into account also.
Thank you.
All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Motion passes, 5-0. Mr. Barkley, you're up next also. Main Street parking lot.
All right, so RK&K, they continue work on finalizing the plans and also completing the bid documents on this project so we can advertise it for construction. RK&K, they have submitted a proposal for construction administration, inspection, and material testing services. That'll be presented to the board whenever we have an acceptable bid for construction. So you'll get to evaluate that at the same time. The city has signed the encroachment agreement for work that's in the NCDOT right-of-way along NC 50. And Duke Lighting, they postponed the meeting on 3/11. Supposedly in 2 days, they'll meet us out there for a meeting on the parking lot lighting, but that's not going to impact our schedule. They can put the lighting in before, they can put the lighting in afterwards, so that's not going to hold us up. And I forgot to add in the very beginning that not only this Main Street parking lot, but it's also fixing the drainage issue we've had on the sidewalk for a very long time of putting a trench drain in, and that was one of the main reasons we had to get the encroachment with DOT, and it had to be back and forth on that to make sure that it met their requirements. So it should be fixing that problem also. Are there any questions for me on the Main Street parking lot?
Commissioner Kuczynski.
The Duke lighting issue. I have gotten complaints from business owners on Main Street who use that parking lot as it is right now to park. And it's very dark at night and it's not safe. So if we could move Duke lighting along in any way to try and get them to get the lights fixed back there, it's a hazard. We don't need to lose any economic development downtown because of this issue. So I would ask that if there's any way we could push Duke a little faster, I would ask that we possibly try to do that.
We definitely want them to install it as soon as they can, just because we know how things go with them. If we can get it done now, we're not gonna wait to do it after the project. It's not in the way of construction, they're off to the side, so I'll add that to the reason to push them along.
So we don't have a deadline for our K&K to finalize these plans?
There was a proposed schedule in the very beginning, but
Right.
things come along like there's more back and forth with DOT than was expected. There was numerous delays with Duke in the very beginning. They dropped the ball, personnel change, I forget all the story behind that. And there's just always more complexity than expected. It should have been done, they were expecting it to be done at the end of last year.
Yeah, so I would like to see it in the next at least 2 months, if it's possible. Because then it's still gotta go out for bid.
Right.
Thank you, Carl. Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem.
Mr. Morse.
Yes, sir. Carl, this is probably not your question. This may be more for Chief. As the Commissioner mentioned about the safety issues, I'm just curious to know, are the safety issues related to mobility, transportation or pedestrian traffic? And as it or could it be related to criminal activity that's going on that's heightened? Is that why it's a safety issue? Just trying to get, again, that may be more of a Chief question, if we're seeing some activity there.
I'm not aware of any criminal activity occurring there. Obviously, in our places, there's a potential, but I would say we'll pay you that.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Anyone else? Thank you, Carl, for the update. We should get you a chair, Carl. Next one is yours, 6F, City Hall renovation.
So we received a state grant for renovations to City Hall. Had a nice big plan on how that money was going to be spent, and then we decided to build a new police department, and the renovations to this building sort of got all thrown into a mix on that. So the current state is we have spent $100,000 of the $250. Most of that is on the solar energy system on the roof. Now, there was supposed to be an HVAC unit replacement for this building put in the contract with MLB, and as luck would have it, it didn't make it into that contract. So Public Works, that's to our advantage. Public Works is going to proceed with that work ASAP. They've already gotten a quote, and it's just under $50,000 for that unit. So that bumps us up to 60% being spent. And to be honest, we were really counting on the generator, which is going to be shared by the two buildings, and was a line item on the grant application. We were really counting on the generator for a lot of this money. But as it turns out, we won't be invoiced in time to use it for the grant. We figured there'd be some sort of, money you had to pay when you order it, or, partial payment required. Turns out the manufacturer will not accept payment until it ships from the factory, and there's a 6-month lead time on the generator. We found that out on March 10th. So, shifting directions, where can we spend the money? The paving repair on the asphalt between City Hall and the building that the CDO leases, the estimate for that was $35,000. So Public Works is going to proceed with that. They already had a quote from, I think, 2 or 3 contractors. They're going to proceed with that. That bumps us up to 72%, $180,000. Now, there's several other smaller line items of the grant application that we're going to pursue, the, painting of the exteriors, some minor soffit repair, not enough to get us across the finish line. So what we're currently investigating is getting a quote to relocate the flagpole. That is part of the overall renovation work. Also, the gas line, the natural gas line that's going to feed the generator, because that's the only thing that's going to be using natural gas, an emergency generator. I feel quite certain Enbridge is not going to install that gas line for free. If we had a bunch of gas utilities, they might do that, but not for something that's only tested once a month. So I'm working with MLB to work with their Enbridge contact and find out what is the charge going to be to run that gas line, and that could be and go and get that done, certainly. And we can use that for the grant money. And then another item is furniture. After the renovation and the CDO moves into the renovated spaces, they'll need furniture. So we can go ahead and purchase that and store it, and that can be used also for the grant. So tonight, I cannot tell you exactly what the remainder of the money is going to be spent on, but I can assure you, it will be spent. There's enough things that are needed. We didn't rush into it in the beginning because we wanted to spend the money as wisely as we could, and the generator seemed like the best thing, the most appropriate thing. So that got yanked out from under us last week. Okay, we'll find the next best thing. So, are there any questions for me regarding the grant?
Mr. Kuczynski.
So, the renovation of City Hall was carpeting, paint, and renovation of City Hall, the floor in the hallway and stuff. And we're scrambling to try to find ways to spend $250,000 by moving a flagpole and moving a sign and doing this and doing that. When is the renovation of the City Hall? When is that going to happen?
So after the police department, the new building is completed, and the police move over there, that's when the current plan is to come in and renovate the entire building. To do all the painting, all the flooring, anything that has to be done, do it all at one time, because it's most efficient that way. But if these other things don't pan out, then that certainly is an option to come in and do the carpet, and the things on this side of the building that aren't going to be, what's the word? The walls aren't changing on this side, the walls are changing on that side.
Right.
So, like cleaning the chairs in here, that was part of the renovation work. We decided to hold off on cleaning these chairs until the flooring was replaced. That way, when you bring the chairs back in and remount them, that's when they get cleaned. They could be cleaned before. So there are options, but they're not as good as what we're trying to pursue at the moment.
But the $250,000 will be spent.
So
then they'll need more money out of the general fund.
I'm sorry, what was that? I didn't follow you.
So, $250,000 will be spent.
Yes.
So we're going to have to take money out of the general fund to do the renovation on the inside of the administration area.
That was part of the MLB contract.
Okay, all right.
I think it included the new building.
That's in there?
plus renovation.
Okay. Sorry, Carl. Thank you.
Scare me for a second.
Anyone else? Thank you, Mr. City Manager.
And the entire project will be complete 365 days from the date of notice to proceed.
Well, it may have changed a little bit.
Is that because of something that's come up unexpected, Carl? I mean, I knew it was 1 year, and then we started finding those guys.
Yes, it was 1 year, but the weather already has exceeded what was anticipated, the weather days that were lost. I forget what the additional was, but
I mean, they include inclement weather in the construction timeline.
Yes, there's some that they anticipated, some for January, February, each month has a certain amount they expect, but they've exceeded that expectation already by a couple of days. So they're keeping track of that. Little is monitoring that to make sure that it's legitimate, and that's where we are at the moment.
Okay, I would like ongoing, keep the board informed if that date changes significantly. Yeah, okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Thank you, Carl. And moving on to 6G, discussion of the future of the CPD Telecommunications Centers, Chief Willis.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, Commissioners. I bring before you again, as we talked about last meeting, just a proposal to have Granville County take over our 911 communication center, our communication center. The only difference in what you saw last time was there is a interlocal agreement which Director Hicks took to their county retreat. And she presented this to their board, I think, and their board was pretty much open to it, in support of it. At a cost of, when we first met with the county manager and director, the roundabout estimate of the cost to take over would be about $150,000. The projected annual payment based off of call volume that we would have moving over there would be $147,189. Again, as we look into the future and we look to save money, we look at staffing issues and things like that, with one vacancy and the amount of money we would save, I feel like not only now is this a good chance for us to kind of transition this, but for the future as well.
How much will we save, Chief, if you can tell me that?
I don't know the exact number. I can tell you, again, I can tell you that, just quick numbers off the top of my head. Probably with salary and benefits of one position that we have open now, that's probably upwards of $100,000. With the CAD system, things like that is probably another, I would say roughly $30,000. Overtime is gonna be the biggest savings that we have. That's one thing that we kind of exceed every year, trying to fill in people to work there. So again, the city, although I don't have the exact number, I'm quite certain that it will save money now, but in the future, as we look at future retirements and as we do with staffing.
Anybody else? Mr. Moss?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. Chief, I know I've said this before, and I think I am supportive of what you're trying to accomplish. I get it, we're saving money. I get that part. But I would like to restate my concerns, just for the record. Over the years, we've enjoyed basically a 24-hour presence in the community. And I'm sorry to see that we're going to lose that. Having said that, I would like to ask maybe if the team could maybe investigate some alternatives. And I'm thinking these are some thoughts that have come off the top of my head. Like on college campuses, you see, a call box or something of that nature. I am just concerned, especially in this age of issues around domestic violence. I have routinely told my wife if she's out, something crazy has happened, drive to the police station. That's what I'm sorry to see us lose. So maybe if we could look at some things to kind of help offset that, that might be something worthy of consideration.
Sure, absolutely. And we've talked about that, and I've talked to Stacy about that. And one thing that other departments do is they have a phone outside. You pick that phone up, it goes straight to 911.
Gotcha.
There's absolutely no interruption in that, in them picking up that phone. Anytime now, if someone dials 911 in the city and it's an emergency, they already broadcast it over our channel anyway. They don't send it to us. So the response time will be faster in that manner. So yes, I agree with you. It's a change. It'll be a change for people in Creedmoor, but I think since I've been here, we may have had one, maybe two instances after hours where people actually came to the police department. Most people are just going to dial 911 where they are, and again, it goes straight there, and there's no interruption in the service. So, again, I think years ago when we had a magistrate's office, we had things like that where the building needed to be open 24 hours a day. I think that was, a reason to have it open. But I do understand your concern, and we've talked about ways to make that work, whether, we put a number up there or we put a phone there. I would rather have a phone or something that rings directly to them so they have direct access to whoever needs help.
Thank you, sir, for looking at that. Thank you.
Commissioner Gleason?
Just the same thing. Basically, I did state that I was concerned about them being nobody there when there's been there somebody, certainly as long as I've lived in Creedmoor, and I'm sure beyond that. But fortunately, my discussions with you, and find out that almost 100% of our emergency calls go into the 911 center, which is where this is going to be located, and then they notify our police officers. And the fact that there can be a device on the outside of the building very well marked and lit up that if somebody just picks it up, they get 911, and it's as fast for an emergency as it would be, if not. So, again, I hate to see it go, but the bottom line is I understand that staffing and whatever is really a big problem. So, although, like I said, I would like to see it stay, I will vote to move it. Thank you.
All right, we have requested motion. Commissioner Kuczynski.
Motion to direct the city manager to proceed with negotiations with the county to take over the PD telecommunications center.
You've heard the motion. All in favor, say aye. Aye. 5-0, it passes. Chief Willis, you're still up.
Again, last meeting, a repeat from last meeting. This is just the agreement between the Sheriff's Office, Button Public Safety, and our department, just to formalize a special joint special response team just for critical incidents, tactical operations, and things like that. Again, to give us more people when we do these high-risk, endeavors. I believe I am, Sheriff's still back there, I think I'm the first one to bring it before their board. Just for your approval and get direction, kind of that, we did change the date on there because that was wrong, and we did fix a couple of things that were wrong inside the agreement. So other than the date being taken out, and obviously it will go before Butler's board and go before the county for their approval, but this is just my part of that process.
Commissioner Moss.
Chief, it's my understanding that this initiative doesn't necessarily require Creedmoor's involvement, but this is more of a good faith effort to make sure that we are involved in a very important initiative in our community, if that makes sense what I just said.
Yes, sir, it does. And I can tell you that with a department our size, we rely heavily on other agencies and outside agencies, and I can tell you that the Sheriff's Office and Butler have been a huge help when we've had issues or things happen in our city. So, you know, again, it's just a way for us to strengthen our partnership and relationship with our neighboring agencies. Thank you.
Any further discussion?
So, if Creedmoor approves of this, and Butner, I guess Oxford is involved in this too?
Oxford is not.
Okay.
Good evening. Oxford is not, they don't have a chief of police that has been engaged with us because they were in transition. So what we've done, working with Chief, working with Chad, is created a program where we already have MOUs that we work together. This just expands the resources that we bring to the table. So now what we've done to bring resources to the table with our MRAP, with our search and rescue vehicle, our command trailer just became online. We just got that in 2 days ago. So we will have resources that if we don't even be involved, Creedmoor can come and obtain those resources. And we will work with them because they got their own TAC team already in place. We would just be an extra resource, and the equipment we bring to the table is something that they haven't purchased, the county hadn't purchased. We use asset forfeiture money to put this thing together. Now we're just gonna bring Oxford on board once they get their team. Everybody has to go through SWAT school and SWAT basics to cover all the bases. The chief is responsible for his call-outs until which time we say, hey, Sheriff, can you guys help or do anything else? We all work together in that process. And that's the way the MOUs kind of work already. And we've already got those in place. This just expands it to the SRT team.
So the SWAT training, is that provided by the Sheriff's Office?
Everybody has their own individual schools they go to, but then we train together, so my guys know what his guys are doing, and vice versa.
Okay.
So that's the thing of getting this thing up on board, for you guys to approve, and we'll just start training together. We just have a meet and greet scheduled, then we start training together, we use resources together, so nobody's out of the loop on how we move, what are tactical approaches, and things that we do.
Well, I had told you when you had talked to me about this prior that I am absolutely in favor of this. I think it's a great idea.
Any questions for me?
Yeah, but Commissioner Kuczynski, do I take that as a motion?
Yes, sir. I motion that we approve this MOU Joint Special Response Team.
Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Passes 5-0. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Moving now to 6I, Water Quality Policy, Commissioner Moss.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, these next three items, I believe, belong to me.
Yes, sir.
It feels a lot like I missed school, and I have to get all of my homework turned in on the same day. But I will take my time and step through these one by one. So regarding the City of Creedmoor water quality policy that we have suggested at the February 7th Strategic Board meeting, we reached, as I recall, board consensus that we tweak the language of the policy. I am not going to read it tonight unless you ask me to, and that we've agreed on the language, and that we also agreed that we would make this part of our strategic plan. Lee helped straighten me out on how that's going to look once we get this done. I will say about the policy, we did strike some language that some members were not comfortable with. For example, we took out the part that says this policy does not impose any obligation on the city, Sigwasa, or any other entity to undertake any specific action. So we took that out. We also deleted the first objective, which was to provide information and educational resources on water quality issues. We struck that, but we did include, or did keep rather, gather information related to water and sewer infrastructure within the city's corporate limits. And we also took out the last sentence that read, "The city shall make a good faith effort to establish funding for one or more of the objectives identified in this policy during each year's budget cycle." So we took that out as well. But basically, as I recall, we agreed on the language as is presented in your board packet. So having said that, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move adoption of the City of Creedmoor Water Quality Policy.
Commissioner Gleason? First of all, what I have in my packet shows that provide informational and educational resources. Paragraph is in the one in my, packet.
We took that one out.
Gather information related to water and sewer infrastructure within the city of Creedmoor. Again, I don't know what we're gonna gather the information for. Are we gonna gather information and then tell Sigwasa this main on this street is 100 years old and they need to replace it? I'm just, again, now that I look through this whole policy, we're making a policy that Sigwasa should make this policy, not Creedmoor, because, again, we have no ability other than to go to meetings and push for clean water in the city of Creedmoor. There's nothing we can do in our city, as a city, to help Sigwasa do what they have to do. So the bottom line is making a water policy that maybe takes a certain number of constituents who voted on people who were going to clean their water. There's nothing in this policy that's going to do anything with the cleanliness of water in the city of Creedmoor, other than maybe give more work to staff to create documents that they would turn over, I guess, to Sigwasa, which Sigwasa should do in itself. So, again, I'm not here to influence friends or people, but I'm for clean water. I've been for clean water. I'm at every Sigwasa meeting for clean water, and I don't think we have the need to create a policy that's gonna falsely make people in Creedmoor think we're gonna fix their water. They're not. So I have to say that I'm not for this policy. Commissioner Kuczynski?
So, this is directed to you, Commissioner Moss, because you were there at the time. Is there any reason to believe that city documents weren't turned over to Sigwasa? In this, it talks about turning over informational stuff to Sigwasa. And I'm trying to understand, didn't we turn everything over to Sigwasa when we sold the property, sold the water system? And well, I'll just go with water instead of wastewater right now.
Commissioner, I understand your need to look back. I get it.
No,
No.
not
Let me
that.
finish.
I have another
Allow me
point
to
that came
finish.
up at our meeting.
Go right ahead.
At our meeting, we talked about the fact that Church Street has a 2-inch line on it, and a 4-inch line, and a 6-inch line. And they are trying to get everybody, there's going to be major construction on Church Street, to get everybody onto the 6-inch line. The problem is, they can't find the 2-inch line. When Robert Jackson went to Mr. Frangos's office and asked, do you have any paperwork to show us where the 2-inch line is in the ground? He said, no, we've turned everything over to Sigwasa. So now they've had to go to Wooten to try and find documentation, and Wooten doesn't have it all. So it's going to be a little harder than we thought, but as I read through this policy, I thought that it insinuated that we're going to cooperate with Seguasa and make sure they have all the information they need to do what they need to do. And I'm just asking you, I don't know, did we hold back a copy for our records and maybe they lost theirs? Or I'm just trying to understand why that's in here. It's your policy, so I thought maybe you knew something that you hadn't, that I don't know.
Well, I think you're missing the point entirely, quite frankly. So let me do this. Let me read the purpose, and maybe that will help you. So it is understood and acknowledged that the residents of the city of Creedmoor have consistently complained of discolored and foul-smelling water for many years. It is further understood and acknowledged that while the cities nor Seguasa's, let me start that part again. While neither the cities nor the South Grandma Water and Sewer Authority's water testing has identified instances in which contaminants meet or exceeds generally accepted levels, many residents, and this is the key part for me, many city residents remain distrustful of the city and Seguasa and remain concerned about the safety and quality of the water supply. This purpose of the city's water quality policy is to establish guidance to the city's employees, agents, contractors, and representatives regarding the city's stance on water quality within the city's corporate limits to establish a clear outline of the city's approach to this issue. On August 19th, 2024, I stood right there as a citizen, you may recall, talking about not water quality in Creedmoor, but water quality at 207 Cozart Street. Had the board at that time simply had the courage to stand up and say, we're going to support water quality for the city of Creedmoor, I can almost assure you I would not be sitting up here tonight. So the purpose of this policy is not to tell anybody to do anything. The purpose of this policy is to demonstrate to our citizens that we are willing to stand up for them. That is the missing link in this thing. This is, Mr. Gleason, this is what we have the ability to do, is to show our citizens through our words and our actions that we are willing to stand with them for water quality. This board can take the action of not passing it or passing it. I am good either way. But at the end of the day, I'm going to come down on the side of our citizens, because I think it's just that important.
So for 6 years, I have sat on the Seguasa board, and I've done exactly that. Stand up for the citizens of Creedmoor. And I believe Commissioner Way has done the exact same thing. And I find it insulting for you to say that and insinuate that I haven't done my job. What I have. I believe that Seguasa has done every single thing that they can possibly do to improve water quality and continue doing it, but it's not something that happens overnight. For 6 years, we have been at it, and we are still at it. And to be honest with you, everything that's in this policy is already being done, and for that reason, I can't support this policy either.
You are certainly welcome to your opinion, ma'am. I completely get it. Nobody has said that you've not done anything. I don't recall that being said anywhere. In fact, I sat on this dais and said much of this work is already being done. It is underway. But again, choose to support it or not. I will be able to go back to my citizens and tell them we tried.
Commissioner
Thank
Gleason?
you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem.
Yes, sir. Again, I've been sitting in this room and I've been sitting in the Seguasa since like 2011. When you were mayor and Archie was a commissioner and we were getting letters in the mail saying our water's contaminated, boil it. And I didn't hear anything from this board saying, we gotta clean up the water, let's make the water safe. The water was made safe. The water was made safe by Seguasa. Because people made them do it. But this board when we were getting letters saying that the water's gotta be boiled, and we were getting letters on a Friday the 13th, when they probably got the message on the month before on the 29th. So I don't wanna hear this, well, now I'm changed, now I'm gonna work for the citizens of Creedmoor to get clean water. Everybody on this board, anybody on this board, with the exception of yourself and Archer, until September of last year, or whenever you stood at the podium, had said anything about clean water while you were in office, and while you had a position where you could have said to Sigwasa, you gotta clean up the water. No, and you can talk 100 fancy bullshit, but the bottom line is, that's the truth. It's the truth. And like I said before, when Archie was asked the question, he said, I changed my mind. What the hell could you change your mind about? You were either for clean water or dirty water. So you must have been for dirty water if you changed your mind and now you're for clean water. So I don't want to sit here and just shut up and say, yeah, let's make a motion that makes people feel better. Because we ain't gonna do nothing to make them better other than push Sigwasa to do what they need to do. And I've been doing that as hard as I could do it, and I missed a lot of you people at those meetings where I was doing it. I've seen Archie come to 3 meetings, the last 3 meetings. I've been to meetings in 6 years. So the bottom line is, I'm gonna be truthful with the public, not send us some kind of policy that all of a sudden is gonna make them feel that when I turn the water on tomorrow, and the fire department happened to have a fire on Main Street, and now the people on Main Street got dirty water. It has nothing to do with Sigwasa, it has to do with, that's what happens when they flush the hydrants. So I just don't wanna sit here and be comfortable with the fact that I'm just gonna say aye, and now the people are happy. Because believe me, if this passes, your water ain't gonna be no better tomorrow, it ain't gonna be, it's being constantly, slowly improved. But everybody in this room has to understand that Sigwasa has 6,600 customers, and we're all part of it. And when they wanna put new pipes in all of Creedmoor, and you're paying $200 a month for your water, that's all we got. That's all we got. We can't do anything. Like I said, we got guys on this board when Creedmoor wanted to give Sigwasa $2 million. They threw him off the board. They threw him off the Sigwasa board and put themselves on it, and then did nothing. So this policy to me is just words to make some kind of campaign promise that started that really, I'll be honest with you, since it started, we've had more problems in this city. Again, and I can say it, we elected a mayor that wasn't vetted. And the people that supported him didn't vet him. I didn't vet it because I wasn't for him. But now it's a constant pick on Creedmoor and how bad we are. People pick on the fire department for some reason just because it's okay to criticize Creedmoor on Facebook and on Nextdoor. The bottom line is, this board was working as hard as it could with Sigwasa to do what it needed to do. And believe me, they've worked since the day that the law came down about PFAS and PFOS, and they're probably ahead of 65 or 70% of the other agencies that are doing it. So we're, again, buying water filters. I got water filters in my house that take care of PFAS and PFOS, and they cost me like $250, $300 a year. We can't give somebody $200 or $300 a year to do that. But PFAS has been in the water since I was a kid. I'm 80 years old. I'm against the motion too.
May I respond, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem?
Right here, Commissioner Moore.
Okay. And I'll begin by saying this. I think we are supposed to do things that make our citizens feel good. That's just me. But since we seem compelled to want to go back to the past and what was done or not done?
The past is what the future became.
Well, let me give you some concrete evidence there, Mr. Gleason. And if you look to the left out of that window, at that big water tower right there. No, I listened to you, sir. I listened to you. I sat patiently and listened. So if you don't mind, let me finish. And I'll be glad to listen to you again. Is that okay?
Yep.
Great. Okay. So, the city was very fortunate during the early 2000s to get $9.5 million of money to upgrade our infrastructure here in the city of Creedmoor. We replaced a 50,000-gallon tank with that 500,000-gallon above-ground storage tank that sits out there right now. We replaced almost 30 miles of water and sewer lines within the city of Creedmoor. We decreased the number of sewer lift stations from 12 to 6. Why is that important? Because as we all know, Ledge Creek, Holman Creek flow where? To Falls Lake. So every day we wake up, we are responsible for protecting Raleigh's water supply, and we get not one drop of water out of it, but it's a really big deal. So we did. So I cannot accept, I totally reject your notion that nothing was done, because we've done quite a bit. There's more work to be done, and as I said at the top of my remarks, this is about looking forward and committing to our citizens that we're going to do what we can. So I'm going to leave it at that. And this board can vote ever how your conscience leads you to vote. I completely accept it. So thank you.
Ms. Kuczynski, I heard you muttering something.
So, I keep coming back to a message that was forwarded to me months ago before the election. And the statement in this policy saying that Seguasa is not meeting the standards. Seguasa has not violated the standards at all. We meet all state and federal standards. We've got new filter media going into 5 tanks. The 3rd one's completed. 4th and 5th came offline. We were going to go with doing both of them together, but it was decided to do them one at a time. So they're almost done. We can't make Creedmoor employees get involved in Seguasa's water to educate them. Our employees are being told that if it's a water quality issue, they notify Seguasa, which is the right thing to do. And not notifying Seguasa and notifying anybody else in the meantime does not get the problem fixed. And we've had that. And at our last meeting, we had a person come into us and say, we don't know what's going on with the I-85 project. We don't know what's going on with blasting. So God bless Crystal Lee, who has worked her tirelessly on our website, which there wasn't a Seguasa website when I got on the board. There wasn't one. And now it's out there. And you can sign up for alerts. God knows I get 5 or I believe I got 5 today about a lot of stuff that's going on. And we explained to these people that there are alerts set up. So if you want to know what's going on with the I-85, there's monthly meetings on the progress of I-85 that anybody can go to or tune into or watch the recordings of. But contacting anybody besides Seguasa when you have a problem just delays the inevitable. I'm very concerned about backflow valves because Commissioner Moss, you had 2 people come to you and you reached out to me and I did some investigation, and there's been 3 homes in the Creedmoor area. They're older homes. They don't have backflow valves on them. There's some sewage backed up into their houses or their basements. And I'm trying to work with Seguasa on making sure that it's a fair statement to say if your house was built before 1980 or 1970, check with a plumber to make sure you have a backflow valve so you don't have a backflow issue if there is a clog in the sewer lines. But I don't have permission from Seguasa to make that it's not a carte blanche statement that can be made. And as far as Commissioner Gleason is exactly right, I moved into Creedmoor in 2002, and every single month when I got my bill, there was a violation in there, and the violations were, it had said that, 2 weeks prior to me getting that bill, there was a violation of the water, but it had been corrected. And I was like, well, wait a minute. I didn't get a boil water advisory. Nobody told me anything about it. So, since Creedmoor is the only city that is raising these issues as strongly as they are, I want to understand, and I believe Mr. Downey was supposed to reach out to you on my request, that when the WRAL team went into businesses on Main Street, I had 3 business owners, 2 by phone and 1 in person, say, don't drag us into your political crap. If you don't stop it, I will close my doors and I will go somewhere else. Every storefront on Main Street is full. We have a great economic development system going in Creedmoor right now, and I'm not going to give it up. People outside Creedmoor don't realize that the water in Creedmoor is not Creedmoor's water. They don't realize it's the same water as Butner, Stem, and the county. But because they think it's Creedmoor water, there are people on social media that are from outside Creedmoor saying, oh, Creedmoor's water is bad. Creedmoor's water is the same water at Butner and Stem, and their commissioners are not doing this. This is going to destroy the economic development of Creedmoor if it doesn't stop. I'm working my butt off to make sure the water quality in Creedmoor is good. And I believe that the money that this city spent testing water, and every test came back fine. They were within limits. We didn't test for PFAS because it was too expensive. And we knew PFAS is in the water. It's stupid to waste money on PFAS testing when there's PFAS in the water. We understand that. And I'm not willing to waste taxpayers' money on other stuff that is already established. So fiscal responsibility. The water, if you made a promise online when you were running for office, Commissioner Moss, saying you would start attending every Seguasa meeting. And I've got a copy of it at home. You haven't been to one since you were elected.
So you know if I watch online?
That's not what you said. I will
You know if I watch, so watching online
streaming.
does not constitute
There's no
attendance?
Let's not argue.
It's not streamed.
No, okay,
It's recorded.
okay. All right, whatever you say, ma'am.
So you said
Whatever
you
you
would
say.
attend all the meetings, and I haven't seen you there. And that has come back to me by people saying, I thought Commissioner Moss was going to start attending meetings. And I'm like, I saw the same message you saw. I don't want to fight you personally on this. I understand your initiative is a good thing, but I believe everything in this water quality policy is being done, and we can't do, and the employees of Creedmoor.
Mr. Mayor, I call the vote on this motion.
Thank you. There's a motion to approve. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Passes 3-2.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Moving right along. Campo reports, 6J, Commissioner Moss.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. And I'll begin by asking, I don't know if the board would like for me to do this every month. I am more than happy to do it, but I have not done it. And I noticed on another agenda, we had the Seguasa report, so I thought it might be a good idea to have a Campo report. And I'm just going to run down a few dates here. On February 11th, several of us here attended the North Falls Lake Area Study Meeting that was held over at the Expo Center. And I'm sorry, that was on February 11th. And then on the 20th, I may have that date wrong. Hold on one second. I think I got that date wrong. But at any rate, we did attend the North Falls Lake Area Study. And what we learned is that there are 12,000 new homes that are projected between now and 2050 for Granville County. We are in kind of a growth quarter, as the commissioner so eloquently stated there a few minutes ago. So as we continue to look at development, we're going to have to make some hard decisions about how we're going to grow, not so much where, but the how part. And traffic, as we already know, is already an issue that we're struggling with, and there's a lot of work that's going on around that issue. On February 24th, Commissioner Russ May convened a meeting over at the Expo Center again with the city of Creedmoor, and we were talking about the priorities that we're looking at. I think the I-85 interchange right beyond up there, at the Brogdon Road stem area, is a priority. Obviously, we're concerned about the Highway 15 and Hillsborough Street area here in the city that has turned into kind of a tough area to navigate on your car. Let's see. On March 27th, I attended the Campo meeting and learned, even though it's not in Creedmoor, that there is a traffic circle that is being proposed at Highway 15 and Hester Road. I think that funding has slipped from 2026 to 2027. So that is already on the list of priority as well. But I know Commissioner May is working on some other another initiative that may actually help us to kind of get out of this situation where we're in, where funding is just a challenge. I guess the best way that I could put it, when Creedmoor was in the RPO, the Cartar RPO, we went from being a very small fish in a very small pond to now we are a microscopic fish in a very large pond with Campo, and it is very difficult for us to get their attention, but we are working feverishly to do that. I think I'm going to leave that report right there for now. But again, I would like to get some direction from either the manager or the board if this is something you would like for me to continue. If not, that is quite all right, but I'll leave that where it is for now.
Yeah.
If there are any questions I can answer. Oh, that's what I forgot to say. We've got a meeting coming up here. Barbara, do you know when that meeting is with the Campo staff? Next Wednesday. That's the one that I didn't put on here. And I guess I'd like to ask if commissioners have specific suggestions that they'd like for us to speak with our Campo leadership about. We'll be more than happy to get that on the list. I think Commissioner Kaczynski's planning on attending that meeting as well.
Before we have a further discussion, is there a consensus that we would like Commissioner Morris to report on this each month?
Yes.
Yes.
I'll be glad to.
Down that side? Okay, that's a consensus.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Mr. Moss, you asked my opinion. I'm just wondering, once a month sounds great. Is it more information you think than you could present during your commissioner comments, or are you looking for a item on the agenda every month to do this?
You know what I could do, and I probably, hindsight being 2020, I could have done it differently this time. So why don't I just type it up? I'll send it to you, and we can just include it with the agenda packet.
That works for us.
Okay, I'll do it that way.
Okay.
That is just fine.
So anything you want to add on beyond that, Ed, during the commissioner's comments in the legislative?
I don't think so.
Okay.
No, not right at this moment. Okay, that's great.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? All right, moving right along. 6K, discussion of proposed ordinance of law enforcement transparency. Commissioner Morris, that is also you.
All right. So I am predicting that this one also will draw a lot of ire and fire, I am sure. But a few weeks back, I presented a proposed ordinance entitled the Law Enforcement Transparency Ordinance for board consideration. I actually understand that that was discussed at the county meeting last night to some degree. But I do want to take my time here and read the ordinance, the body of it, just for the sake of clarity. As the commissioner stated, social media and fake news can change things somewhat. So this is the title of the ordinance, and I hope that everyone will listen carefully. An ordinance ensuring law enforcement transparency and prohibiting unidentified mass agents on city-owned property. Whereas the city of Creedmoor is committed to the safety, civil liberties, and trust of its residents, and whereas the face coverings by law enforcement agents can obscure identity, reduce accountability, and cause unnecessary alarm within the community. And whereas North Carolina General Statute 14-12.8 generally prohibits the wearing of masks on public property to conceal identity, whereas the Board of Commissioners finds it necessary to ensure that any individual exercising police powers on city-owned property is clearly identified as a legitimate law enforcement officer. Now, up until yesterday, my intention, and I talked to the Mayor Pro Tem about this, my intention was to pull the ordinance from consideration. But I am compelled to again call for a vote on this motion. After seeing American citizens killed in Minneapolis for expressing their First Amendment rights to protest, I will be honest with you, it scared me. And this is what is inspiring me to do what I can to make sure that doesn't happen in Creedmoor. Last week, we learned that ICE, the Immigration Customs and Enforcement people, are working to secure office space in Wake County. That's not too far from us. And those things also concern me. And I apologize for probably talking a little bit slower than I normally do. But I'm just a little baffled and concerned that there seems to be a lack of concern about doing what we can as a community to make sure that all of us, whether you're a Democrat or a Republican or an independent, unaffiliated, whatever the case may be, that we are able to enjoy our constitutional rights. So Mr. Mayor, I am going to move adoption of the ordinance. And as I said, even going back to the water quality discussion, this is win-win for me, because we get to again, stand with citizens as best we can. It is a highly charged issue, I get it. But I think that it is something that, as I have watched the news and read the news as well, that there are other communities that are taking steps to do what they can to protect their citizens' rights, and this is my intention. Thank you, sir.
Commissioner Gleason. First of all, I've called this man mayor for as long as I've been here. I didn't start calling him commissioner until he got elected commissioner. And I'm sure that the mayor will say that when he was mayor, there was nobody more on his side than Ed Gleason. And we're politically aligned. Let's say that. We're politically aligned. However, I want my conservative friends and Republican friends to understand that I'm against this ordinance, not because I'm for the secret police that our criminal president is running. But there's no way that our local police chief is gonna tell the FBI if they come into Creedmoor with a mask on, you gotta take your mask off. I've talked to the sheriff, I've talked to our police chief. They all follow the policy pretty much as is. There are certain instances where the sheriff, and he's given me the right to say this, uses masks when they go after extremely dangerous, with a warrant, subjects, or a no-knock warrant. So they have a warrant. Nobody rides around with masks on, pulls people over to the side of the road, pulls them out of the car, and no police officer in Creedmoor is gonna be able to follow this policy if somebody from ICE drives into Creedmoor with a mask on. Are they gonna arrest them? Can you arrest them, Chief? I think the chief said no. So again, we're writing a policy that makes it look like we're doing something that we can't do. I mean, I'm against ICE as much as you're against ICE, and now it's a secret police force. He's crazy, the guy's crazy. The guy running this country is crazy. We ain't gonna change that. I said to somebody at a meeting today, other than an asteroid hitting the Earth, it's not gonna get better here quick. But this policy is only gonna, like you say, create animosity between people, and we're creating a policy that cannot be enforced. It can't be enforced. So I'm not against it because I'm pro-ICE by any stretch of the imagination in history. It's crazy, ridiculous, and wrong. But I don't want to put our police officers or sheriff's department in a position where they think that they come in Creedmoor with a no-knock warrant and they're gonna do something that our police officer's gonna go after the sheriff? I don't think so. So again, I'm against it not because I understand what you're going after. I get that 100%. But I think this ordinance just puts up smoke and mirrors that says to something that don't worry about them, they come here, we're gonna arrest them, or we're gonna take their masks off, or we're gonna do something. We can't. We can't. But, so I just hope that the board looks at that and says, let's not make a policy, again, that we can't do anything about, other than at the ballot box in November. Thank you.
There was no motion on the agenda, Commissioner Morse, are you asking for a motion?
I did make a motion.
Okay.
You made a motion.
I did.
I'm just verifying. Any other comments?
I spoke my piece last time.
Well, I want to be honest, when I read some of the things being said on social media, it feels discouraging and at times even unfair. There have been claims that this proposed ordinance somehow reflects a lack of cooperation with state and federal agencies, and I respectfully disagree. This ordinance is not about resisting or undermining law enforcement. It's about transparency, accountability, and building trust within our community. Asking that any agency operating in our city clearly identify themselves and not conceal their identity is a reasonable expectation in a free and open society. And let me be very clear, I strongly support our police officers, our firefighters, and rescue personnel. These men and women put their lives on the line every day, and nothing in this ordinance changes my respect, appreciation, or ongoing support for any one of them. In fact, I believe this measure strengthens the relationship between the community and those who serve it. Trust is built when people know who is acting in authority and can feel confident in that interaction. My support for this ordinance does not weaken my support for those who protect and serve. It reflects my commitment to both public safety and public trust. I believe we can and must have them both. With that, I'll call a vote on the motion. All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. I'm sorry, let me back. I didn't see Commissioner Way. I'm so apologize. Commissioner Way.
As I stated before at the last meeting when this was originally brought up, when you put your hand on the Bible and you swear or affirm to the rules and the laws of this Constitution of the United States, not consistent with the state of North Carolina if you're local law enforcement, you are saying that you're putting your trust to do the job that you are employed to do. And as I said before, if you're in a position of law enforcement, or if you're in a position of a justice on a court system, or an attorney representing someone, everyone takes an oath of office. Your oath of office defines the person that you're going to be. The people that put on a badge, everybody that puts on a badge is not a perfect person. There are people out there that wear badges that are absolutely shouldn't be wearing badges. And it's our job to weed those people out. It's the job and responsibility of the leadership and law enforcement organizations to weed those individuals out. They represent the people they're protecting. They represent the community in which they are assigned. That is the faith that we put in these people when they're out there. A federal law enforcement officer, when they arrive to a scene or any situation, they have to identify themselves. They have identification, and they have a vest that says police, just like any other local law enforcement officer will have, to identify who they are. If they don't identify who they are, then that's a situation we need to handle internally and figure out why they're not identifying themselves. However, I don't believe that us, as Commissioner Gleason said before with the water quality ordinance, if you come up with an ordinance or understanding or a memo or something just to put things out there, to say that in good faith, we're going to say this ordinance, they can't wear masks on city property. We can't tell a federal law enforcement officer they can't wear their mask. Just know, Chief Wheelis can't go out there and tell them that we're not going to assist them if they ask for help. If they are a law enforcement officer asking for assistance, then we have to respond in due kind. You just can't say, oh, well, you're an ICE agent, we're not going to go help you. I'm sorry, you're on your own. That's not how it works. I just feel that something of this nature, when there's more pressing matters in our local area to discuss, our roads need fixing. As been pointed out, we've got water situations and pipes and things that need to be repaired. We need to repair the trust in our community, because right now this board seems to be fractured. And that's a shame. But I could not support this ordinance. That's all I have.
Anyone else? So I'll take the vote on the motion. All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. All against?
No.
Fails 3-2. All right, now we're going to go down to 6. Okay, a motion, City Attorney.
So you all should have in your agenda package, a set of rules and procedures that I've prepared, for a proposed, a motion proceeding to remove the mayor. I also emailed out an updated, draft this afternoon, which has, a new section about service of process and other documents. Hopefully you all have had an opportunity to review. I'm not asking, nor am I suggesting that a motion be made to approve these proposed rules this evening. This is an opportunity for you all to give comments and feedback. I and the attorneys at my office can then incorporate appropriate amendments in response to your comments and feedback, and return to you all with an updated, hopefully a final draft copy, at which time I think it would be appropriate then for this board to consider whether you really wish to pursue a motion proceeding or not, and if you do, that would be an appropriate time to adopt the rules of procedure, which would kind of effectively initiate that process. So with all that said, I'll turn the floor over to the board for discussion and comments on on the proposed rules of procedure.
Thank you. Any discussion?
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Morrison?
Okay. So Kevin, I just want to make sure before we get started here, so we're talking about the updated, rules of procedure that you sent out this afternoon. Based on the initial email that you sent, tell me again what changed?
So, let me pull it back up for you. So there are minor kind of, stylistic changes and changes to align terminology, define terms and terminology. The real significant substantive change is the addition of a section for service of pleadings, papers, and other documents.
Okay.
And you all may recall from the original draft that was mailed out to you, there are several instances in which the city or the respondent, in this case, potentially be Mayor Downey, are responsible to serve certain documents on the opposing party, kind of in a similar manner to a court of law. In those instances, in the prior draft, we effectively said, these documents should be served in the manner provided by the North Carolina Rules of Civil Procedure. And each one had certain exceptions, except that service on the city shall be made on the city clerk, something like to that effect. What we've done with this latest revision or draft is kind of insert a separate section that deals with service of all documents, pleadings, and other papers that are required to be served throughout the motion proceeding, just so that there's one, unified place where all those rules are more clearly established, so that we can make sure there's no internal inconsistency between the method by which certain things ought to be served in different circumstances. I hope
Nope, I got it.
I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, I got it. Basically, section 4 is what you inserted.
Yes, sir.
Okay, gotcha. So I just want to begin with the end in mind here. I think it's reasonable to say that this board perceives our mayor in a bad light. That's just me talking. But in the midst of this trouble, I was fortunate enough to be a couple of weeks ago at government training, my municipal government training in Chapel Hill, and had the opportunity to speak with the League's General Counsel, Jennifer Schneier, Commissioner Kaczynski. I understood you spoke with her as well. And additionally had the opportunity to spend some time with Professor Rebecca Fisher-Gabbard, who this A-motion process kind of falls under her bailiwick, and she's really smart about that stuff. But I do, and you helped me, Kevin. I started out, as I've gone through the A-motion process, I had 24 questions. But thanks to your very detailed procedure that you sent out to us, I think I've whittled that down to about 12. So I can do that tonight. I can type them up and send them to you. I am open to doing it ever how people want me to do it.
I would rather you did it tonight. This way we're all on the same page as we leave tonight. I
I agree.
appreciate it.
Okay? All right, give me 1 second here. Get my thought back together. Okay. All right, make sure I'm on the right page. Okay. All right, so let me ask this question. This will go to, I think I'm going to try to keep this in good order if I can, just for the sake of good note keeping. So in section 1, under authority and purpose, it speaks to the offenses, and at what point will we be laying out the specific allegations of removal?
So, we've discussed this a little bit before. Generally, the process that we're proposing would involve first kind of a factual investigation. There are different ways that we can determine who's responsible for conducting that investigation. Those decisions will be made by the board at a later time. But the factual investigation we conducted first to determine whether there are, in fact, whether we believe that there are in fact, grounds upon which, the board could proceed with a motion proceeding. Following that investigation, whoever conducts the factual investigation will make a presentation to this board. At that time, and based on the results of the investigation, this board will make a determination about whether or not to move forward with a motion proceeding. The motion proceeding would be commenced by, you would effectively authorize, whether it's me or whether it's outside counsel, this board would authorize, whoever's responsible for prosecuting the motion proceeding to draft a petition for removal by a motion. That petition would include it would be akin to like a complaint in a civil court proceeding. It would set out basically the charges, so to speak, against Mayor Downey and the factual allegations in support of each of those charges or grounds for removal. Does that answer? I don't know that we have a specific date on which that would occur. That would occur after the investigation has been completed and after this board has received a report on the findings of the investigation.
Understood, thank you. And as it relates to those specific allegations, at what point in the proceeding would affidavits be created? Would that be during that period of time or some other time?
So, I think there are a couple different points at which affidavits might be, received or compiled, produced. I think the first instance in which that might happen is during the investigative phase. If there are witnesses who have personal knowledge of relevant facts, the investigating attorney may ask those witnesses to prepare and sign affidavits attesting to the facts that they have. Another possibility, I suppose, would be during or shortly after the preparation of the petition. If there are witnesses who have facts that are relevant to and should be attached to the petition as exhibits, that might be another opportunity for affidavits to be prepared and submitted to the city or the individual investigating and prosecuting the
Thank you, sir. In that same area, as it relates to the evidence, and I know it may be a bit premature for you to give us a real concise answer, but as it relates to the evidence about the mayor's personal life, while it's viewed in isolation, it may or may not be relevant. Just, I know there's been a lot of talk about his prior offenses, and I just wondered what weight would be given to those.
Yeah, I don't know that I can say with any degree of certainty right now how much weight would be given to prior offenses. I think that's something that would be determined during the factual investigation. And, as part of the investigating attorney's report to you, part of that responsibility would be to make recommendations to this board about the facts and those facts we need. So I think at that time, we might be able to provide a better response to that.
Okay. Yeah, but I lost my train of thought there for a second. Just to kind of net it out, I think what I want to say is, to net it out, those are questions that we're just not going to be able to answer really right at this point. Gotcha. Okay. All right. So I'm going to come back to the investigative part here in just a second. That's section 3. I think the investigative report, I'll come back to that one at the end. I'm going to try not to forget that. But moving forward to, in mine, I'm not sure if it's been renumbered now, but the original one that you sent out, it was section 7, deliberation and decision. And under that section, I am just curious. I know because this board is going to have to, if we move forward with this, we will have to act as an impartial quasi-judicial body. So I'm wondering, and I'm thinking about it from his side as well, would social media posts, whether something we made possibly that one or more of this board members on this board could potentially come into play?
In theory, that's possible. So the Mayor Downey was calling the respondent, kind of that's the term that we're giving to him in these rules of procedure, would have the opportunity to challenge the impartiality of individual commissioners as part of the decision-making tribunal. And so I think it's possible that evidence regarding, the potential for bias amongst commission members could come into play as part of that process. Part of the evidence here is hearing on the motion process.
Gotcha. Right.
And I'll add, that's a point, that's another point that has been fleshed out a little bit more in the revised draft that you all received this afternoon.
Okay. And I think I know the answer to this, but I really am curious. The board took a recorded vote of no confidence at the last meeting. Had I been here, I would have voted for it myself, quite honestly. But I'm wondering, could that potentially affect our impartiality?
No, so what limited case law we have in North Carolina does address this issue in kind of the paradox that's presented by the fact that the same board which ultimately directs, in our case, the city's attorneys and potentially outside counsel to pursue the removal process, also has to act as the impartial tribunal or decision maker. And what the courts have said is that so long as the members of the board who are participating in that decision-making process, reasonably believe that they do not have a fixed opinion that is not susceptible to change prior to the evidentiary hearing, you remain, at least in the eyes of the law, an impartial decision maker. So I understand kind of the perception that creates kind of the paradox there. The law, as it exists now, kind of supports the conclusion that absent some other evidence of an impermissible bias or a predetermined fixed opinion or some other misconduct by commissioners, you are entitled to act as the impartial decision maker here.
Okay, all right. So you knocked out two of my questions without me even having to ask them. Thank you. I think I'm going to close with this, at least for now, because I do want to go through your updated process here just to make sure. I'm sure I'll have other questions over time, but so I've looked at, let me ask it this way, because I don't know. So am I allowed to ask questions tonight about the estimate for the investigation?
Sure. Yeah, okay. And I'll just, you should have seen this in my email this afternoon. We've got, reached out to another attorney who does kind of this municipal land use, or municipal law practice, and he and a partner at his firm are estimating that it would cost approximately $40,000 to do the investigation and then the prosecution of the motion proceeding. So that's certainly something that the commission should take into consideration as we continue to deliberate the process.
Okay. And that's the 117 hours now is that kind of like the floor that could go up from there, or?
I think, I don't know that I would characterize it as a floor. As you see in the estimate, the hourly rate that they are using to calculate the estimate is kind of their higher rate. So they've committed where they can to delegating work to associates and more junior attorneys who charge a lower hourly rate. They're also estimating a certain number of witness interviews and witnesses who would be called at the motion proceeding. I believe they're estimating 12, maybe 15 witnesses. I suspect that's probably on the higher side. And so, there's a long-winded way of saying I don't think that this should be characterized as a floor. I think it's just a rough estimate.
Okay.
Could be higher, could be lower. I would guess that it would likely be at least a little bit lower, but So don't hold me to that.
Gotcha, okay, all right. Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, I'm gonna leave it at that for tonight.
Mr. Kaczynski, and then the city manager.
So, I was trying to follow along with the paragraph. We got different numbers in the new one, and I'm going back and forth here. Kevin, when you do a different version, could you please redline it for us next time? It would make it a lot easier for all of us. The second thing, proof of bias. What are we talking about?
That would be the respondent's verdict. You're talking about bias by a commissioner that would affect their impartiality.
Yeah.
And that'll be on the respondent to demonstrate.
Okay.
So, like I said, I mean, the North Carolina general statute set out some statutory conflicts of interest that prohibit a board member from participating in quasi-judicial evidentiary hearing. That's set out in Chapter 160D, Section 109, I believe it's 109D. While that's not necessarily, that involves quasi-judicial land use decisions, which is not necessarily apples to apples to this sort of case. I think that the quasi-judicial procedures set out in Chapter 160D are a good, baseline process to use as a sort of a template in certain situations. I think that would be a good, a good metric to judge conflicts of interest by. I think the biggest one there is evidence that you've got a fixed opinion that's not susceptible to change. If you've made public comments about Mayor Downey's fitness for office, that might be evidence that would amount to, a bias that would prohibit you from participating in the deliberations and decisions. But I just can't, as we sit here today, I can't say for sure when we're.
And the hearsay law applies? Doesn't apply?
Hearsay. So the rules of evidence do not apply in these types of proceedings.
Okay. I had a question. I'm going to read it to you. I know the answer, but I'm going to ask you because you're a city attorney and I'm not qualified to answer this. If Mayor Downey was not excused from the 3 meetings, and he is not coming to the 3 meetings, and he's not performing his job, is he still getting paid? And my answer was, yes, he's still the mayor. But the response to that was, if I don't show up and do my job, I don't get paid for it. So can you give us a legal opinion on this?
I don't know that I can, I think that would be entirely up to the city's policies. I don't know that I have an answer for you right now without reviewing the adopted policies.
I would think that since he's still an elected official, until he's not an elected official, he still gets paid.
I would think so also.
Sure. Like I said.
But there's not a legal opinion on this?
I don't know that that's a specific enough question for me to be able to render a legal opinion on. The general question is there something that would prohibit the city from paying him?
Not my question. I'm just sharing questions that citizens are asking me.
I don't know that I'm the appropriate person to answer that question, unless there's some specific charter provision in the city's charter or some specific provision in the board's rules of procedure or ethics policy that would void, payments under certain circumstances. Then I can't think of a reason why he would not be receiving payment.
Okay.
But I can't. Like I said, I'm getting ambushed here with a question that wasn't raised to me ahead of time, so I don't know that I can provide a.
Well, we're trying to keep the legal bills down because I know that they are climbing expediently right about now. We have all been told that if we have questions for you to either submit them to Mike, and then he has his meeting with you, or ask you at a meeting. And that's how we have controlled in our budget the legal fees. And I understand that's not being done anymore, so it's a different situation.
Mr. City Manager.
I have a question, but before I do that, let me say the mayor, whoever he is the mayor and gets a stipend until he's not the mayor anymore. So if the board wants to take action to stop that or do something, I think that's what it would take. Otherwise, whoever's the mayor continues to get the stipend that's approved and budgeted by the board. So anyway, the question I had, Kevin, was before the board spends a lot of time on setting rules and procedures for a motion, should a decision be made to what attorney firm will be used before the city sets these? Because if we go through what you think we should use for your suggested guidelines, or we choose Kennan and Craver, or you choose some other firm, probably those same rules and procedures are gonna vary. So should we select an attorney, the board decide who's gonna do this first before we go through several forms, several series or types, or is it the motion, a process that's the same throughout?
So I tried to draft these proposed rules in a way that would accommodate either option, whether we hire outside counsel or whether our firm were to conduct the investigation and prosecute the action. I suppose the direct answer is I don't think that there's necessarily a reason that one needs to be done before the other. I think that's entirely up to the board.
Well, for example, if we spend 2 hours doing this with you, and the board decides in the end to use another attorney firm, then we've got to go back through that same process, unless there's a standard set of procedures. Otherwise, the other attorney firms may have a different way to do this, how they do that. They may suggest something different.
Well, what I'll tell you is that these rules would be provided to any outside counsel prior to entering into an engagement agreement with them. So they would understand that these are the rules that they would be expected to follow and comply with. And that's the whole point of this, right, is that, Mayor Downey is entitled to due process and a fair hearing. As we talked about before, the stay motion process is a common law process. There's no statutory guidance that explains to us how this is supposed to happen. And frankly, there's very little, case law that governs what these processes look like. So, I think there's only maybe 4 cases or so in the last 100 years that really, spell out what these appropriate processes are. But the one thing that is clear is that the elected official whose removal is sought is entitled to due process and a fair hearing. The whole point of these rules is to establish, before anything begins, even any investigation begins, what the expected kind of rules of conduct and procedure are for both the city and the outside counsel that would be hired and for the respondent. So again, I think the rules would not change necessarily depending on whether it's me or my firm or another firm who's conducting the investigation and prosecuting the matter. The rule, it might become a little bit funky because the rules as they just refer to outside counsel, when it kind of discusses the process by which an investigation would happen, but the rules also say that the board's election, the city attorney can perform all the duties and responsibilities of outside counsel. So it's a long-winded way, maybe an unclear way of saying I don't think it really makes a huge difference one way or the other. So long as at some point prior to the commencement of any investigation, we have an adopted set of rules and procedure in place that will apply to everybody involved.
I have a question, a couple actually. Can an individual board member be held personally or financially liable for this motion process?
So, I think that's a nuanced question. There are probably elements to the response that should be discussed in closed session rather than open session. I would say that I don't know that there's necessarily any liability simply for engaging in the common law motion process, but depending on individual commissioners.
What's been said, conduct, social media, texts, emails, etc. Gotcha. Okay. And right now we're running around $41,000 for the cost of this. To your best guesstimate.
Yeah, that's the one estimate that we've received to date. The city certainly, I think, would be responsible to ask for, other estimates to kind of try to, gauge, the reason for that estimate, if that's what the board would like to do.
And lastly, it's a legal opinion. Not knowing now, for at least another 30 days, the intentions of the mayor, whether he wants to resign or not, should we move ahead?
Well, I'll say, that's one of the considerations I think that was made in setting out the timeline, the deadlines in the rules of procedure. Like I said at the beginning of this discussion, I certainly am not asking for, nor would I recommend that the rules be adopted tonight. I would recommend that at the earliest they be adopted at your regular meeting next month. I think by or around that date, I would hope that we have a better idea of what might be coming. But certainly, I think at any point, if, for example, hypothetically speaking, Mayor Downey made his intention to resign clear, the city could, the rules very clearly state that during or following the investigation period, the city can decline to pursue a motion. So I think at that point, if during the investigation, Mayor Downey were to tender his resignation, the city could certainly, end the investigation and the entire process outright.
Very good. Any other discussions? Commissioner Kuczynski.
So, since you brought it up, that the outside counsel is about 41,000 roughly.
Roughly.
Kevin, I hate to ask you this. Where are we on your hours spent on this so far? Because that's in addition to...
Good question.
So far.
I don't know off the top of my head, but I can get,
Would you? That's a great question.
Statement prepared for the board that highlights what the charges incurred to date are.
Anyone else?
Yes,
Commissioner Gleason.
the question about prejudice. Every member of this board, by voting to ask the mayor to resign, it can't be held as a matter of prejudice because, the reasons that he was asked to resign kind of were spelled out. So it becomes very difficult. Although I understand that the thing would go on, and at the end of it, certainly, however the outcome is, the mayor would have the right to appeal it to a higher body. But this is the group of people that make the original decision after the hearings and whatever this board would vote to keep or remove the mayor. And like I say, if everybody on this board or now, I just don't want to see the board now start second thoughting it because of many reasons. Between now and whatever start of this process. So I guess I would have you instruct the board as to what you can say and what you can't say. I mean, if a constituent asks me what my feelings is on this, I can say exactly what I said at the first meeting when we brought it up, that I understand and I, as an individual, have concern for him and his family. But I also have this city that, again, I try to be responsible for. So, if asked by a constituent, and I tell the constituent who happens to come up to me, and it happens to be somebody I don't know, I guess I should say nothing. Because I don't, now you can get set up. By people coming in and sitting down after this, the newspapers and all that, they've called and they've tried to get interviews and and nobody has agreed to that, I'm sure. So I just want to make sure that we don't tie our own hands and all of a sudden things fade away, things like, and then we get back in a position where we started in unknown territory in December.
Yeah, so what I would say is, my advice to the board would be to not engage in ex parte communications with, anyone regarding the substance of the motion proceeding. I know that it's not practical for you all to refuse to accept public comment from your constituents about their feelings on the matter, but I would certainly encourage you all to not engage in any substantive discussion about, for example, the evidence.
Oh, no, but if I say this to a neighbor who says, you're gonna remove them, right? Well, we're trying.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the appropriate response is, or would be under those circumstances that, we're gonna follow the process and procedures that the city's adopted, and, we're gonna conduct a fair and impartial hearing, and our decision will be based on the evidence that's presented during that hearing.
I thank Commissioner Gleason where I asked my question. I was addressing specific, targeted, documented, including public comments that are already taking place. That is why I asked my question. Any further discussion?
Kevin, I just said that if we make a decision and a motion, that it can be appealed. Appealed to who?
So it can, technically quasi-judicial decisions can be appealed to the Superior Court. Again, this is a common law proceeding. There is no statutory guidance specifically on how these sorts of appeals ought to be made. But again, typically, a quasi-judicial decision by a local body is appealable to in our case, the Granville County Superior Court.
I thought it was district because it's not financially motivated. That's why I was asking.
So the Superior Court specifically has subject matter jurisdiction over appeals of quasi-judicial.
That's correct.
So if there is an appeal, does the ruling hold or does it delay?
That, again, there's not a whole lot of, because this is a common law process, there's not a whole lot of guidance out there. There are no statutory regulations that kind of discuss that. I think that, first, I would suggest that some of these specific questions ought to be discussed in closed session, but, that's, I think, a question that could be put to the Superior Court. For example, the Superior Court might be asked to grant a temporary restraining order and preliminary injunction, prohibiting the vacated seat from being filled pending the outcome of the appeal. Again, I don't know that there's a whole lot of law out there that talks about those specific circumstances.
Any other discussion? Then I will entertain a motion to go into closed session.
So moved.
All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Can we take like a 3-minute bathroom break?
Yeah, I'm gonna take a 5-minute one.
Can we be able to jump by the same place? The county can't.